So this is Harlow's electric bus, and we're going over the battery system here.
Yep. So here's our 12-volt batteries. Inside here is a switch. This is your 12-volt battery switch.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this 12-volt system drives the high voltage system. There's a contactor or a dam, if you will, that will close when the 12-volt power tells the high voltage, hey, I want high voltage. It'll close it, allow high voltage energy to be dispensed. This is a high voltage switch. You can turn this off. There's no high voltage in here, nothing to worry about. But ultimately, if you do not have 12-volt power, you will not have high voltage.
I just want to make note on that. So they made it pretty clear that if you shut down the 12-volt system, that disables the high voltage as well. But on that training, the Navistar electric bus training that the NFPA has, I'm looking at it right now, I just want to point this out. It says, always remember that the 12-volt battery disconnect switch only disables the vehicle's 12-volt system, not the high voltage battery system. So that's in direct contrast with what these guys are saying.
Anything that's orange and white, that is live all the time, meaning even with this shut off, that's your battery lines. Between the batteries, there's always high voltage, so you don't want to touch those by any means. If a power steering module is laying on the road or something like that after an accident, plain orange cables with it shut off, with your cable turned, cut here, whatever, there's no risk of high voltage there. So we'll help with more training with that too.
Sweet. So this bus has 6 batteries in it, and what's tying these batteries together is these orange cables with the white. So if you see these orange cables with the white on them, like this one right here, these things are always hot. So there's no way to turn the power off to those. So those are ones you want to always be cautious of. Anything with orange and white stripe. Another example right down here, this is the engine compartment, if you will, like an engine compartment on a diesel bus. But this right here, more examples of the orange cables with the white stripes, which would be always. All right, in this next section, the trainer's talking about how if there's an accident and the bus driver isn't incapacitated, they are going to want to leave their radio on until help arrives. So in that case, they'll come around to the outside, they'll shut off that high voltage system, but they're going to leave the 12-volt one on. So when we arrive, we'll also want to shut that system off as well.
When I'm in an accident, I'm supposed to hang my radio out the window, right? Which means I still need my 12-volt system to run, right? So what we're going to tell them to do in that situation is go for the high voltage switch. It'll do the exact same thing, opening all the contactors, but it will keep the 12-volt system up. That way you can still use your radio. That's why I ask state to state, you know, do you have that rule or not? Because I can't tell you to go straight to 12-volt at that point. So when first responders arrive on the scene here in Idaho, what they're going to expect to see is the high volt switch turned off. 12 volts still on, the key is probably still on, that way they can use the radio from outside. So what you're going to want to do is come over and cut this. Turn that high volt disconnect or low voltage disconnect off, and now everything is off at that point. Right here, that red cable there, that's the one that you want to cut. Oh, okay. You don't want to go for this one because that one just powers the fans, okay? You'd just be cutting power to the fans if you do that. You gotta grab that one. That's the main one.
It's typically this one right here.
Yeah, it's typically
the 12
that one.
volt.
Yeah, it
So
could
the one
be.
runs the
I've
fan.
seen it in that position before, but it's
second
always
one.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, but if we cut a chunk out of this one, should be the one. But
Yep.
you can trace that back.
Yeah, you just
and the
follow
one
that
going
in.
back to the side here to the 12
Yeah, this cable's like 8 feet long that goes down here. You can grab it anywhere in that pathway that you can get a hold of it.
All right, so the NFPA has a guide on their website for these Navistar electric buses. You can download it here, or we'll probably just include it with the Target Solutions training. But I want to point out a couple things. One, here is a great diagram of the bus itself and the high voltage components. So all these high voltage components, you can tell, are between the frame rails. Some stretch into the what would be the engine compartment, but everything basically lives between the frame rails. So we'll go over to the photos. So if we've come over here to disable the bus, we shut down the high voltage system, we come down here and shut over the 12-volt system. Basically everything there is disabled. And if we go to the bus here, now we can cut anywhere on the body of this bus and not have to worry about any high voltage components, as compared to like an electric vehicle, a Tesla, only having certain points you can cut, and whatnot. Basically, they've made it really simple with these buses. Everything up here on the bus is low voltage. All the high voltage stuff runs in between the frame rails. So um, it's kind of a pretty straightforward, if we were to come to using our extrication tools on the body of the bus and get people out. All right, just as a review, kind of the down and dirty for first responders on those e-buses. So there's a high voltage system and there's a low voltage system, right? We want to shut down both when we come to the bus. Um, Most likely the bus driver will have the high voltage system shut down, but we just want to disable both of those. If for some reason we can't get to those components on the side of the bus, we're going to cut the red low voltage cable, take a chunk out just like we would out of a car battery system, to disable that and shut the system down. Then that will disable the orange components, the orange cables like that are in the engine compartment of the bus. But we got to remember that even shutting that down, the high voltage system, anything that has an orange cable with white stripes on it, that's always hot. Orange with white stripes on it, always hot. We want to leave those be at all times. And all that stuff is in between the frame rails. So really, unless we're coming up on a catastrophic accident or we've got bus components all spread over the place, that would be a real heads up scenario. But in most cases, right, we're going to be able to shut all that down and work on the bus as we need with extrication tools or whatnot, just by having shut down the two systems there. All right, we'll get the bus over, have them bring one by the station for all the shifts. It'll make a lot more sense when we get some hands-on training. But I want to get a little bit something out for you guys, just because those buses are going to be hitting the road, and something to review later.